To be honest, I feel like my mesh is wrong, but I don't know how to fix it. After last critique, I started to give more attention to some curve directions, like the one with the eyebrow, and that helped, but I still don't like my jaw a lot, and I think the forehead and chin has something seriously wrong with it. Looks weird. So if you could take a look at those things, it would be nice. So Francisco has been on the critiques before. I do not remember what your last sculpt looked like. Let me see if I can find this really quick. Alright. Duplicate. Import. And if you do have some Z tools that you could send, that would be very nice as well for future critiques. Alright, so this is a previous head, I think, that Francisco sent in, and he sent in as well with that. I think he was using this planes of the head as a reference. So maybe we can import that very quickly as well, just to make sure we got that in ZBrush here. Let me just scale that up really quick, and we will take a look at Francisco's head. All right. And let me see, make sure there's nothing else in here really quick. Looked at some reference, but I didn't have one in particular. I did use both the last reference and the mesh that I critiqued as a reference. Wasn't aiming for such a chiseled jaw. Awesome. And you also have a recommendation for an anime down here, which I did watch the trailer for. What was it called? The Promised Neverland. I will have to check out more of that. Let's see. Odo says, have you seen Ryan Kingslion's 12 Days of Realism? I'm not sure if I've seen that specific one. I have seen some stuff by Ryan, though. Alright. So this was your previous model that you sent in, and here is your newer one. So, you said you didn't have a particular reference, but you were using this in the model that I critiqued. So that is that's good. That's good. But remember that it is very important that you have a specific goal in mind. If you're kind of noodling and you're kind of, you know, wandering, you're not really going to ever get to a place where maybe you feel finished. Especially if you're new, I recommend. If you are kind of grabbing a bunch of references, maybe try to gravitate more towards one specific kind of final look instead of kind of a la carte picking and choosing stuff. So, really, I think there's a lot here that we can kind of plus up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do an auto groups really quick. And I'm going to split your eyes. So I think the first thing that stands out to me is just how blocky this feels. We have a very squared off head, you know, a very straight brow, these very tight lines coming down the jaw, and really with just like a very small amount of work, I think we can, you know, get rid of a lot of that and make this start feeling a bit closer to something that feels more organic and maybe a little bit closer to this as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to soften. I'm just literally just using the smooth brush and just softening some of the form around your head here to round some of that out. And then up along your brow here, the ridge of your brow, let's just start. I guess I can mask this off. Not sure if you have subdivs on this, but we can just start playing with the shape of your brow a little bit more. And you have a little bit of, what's his name? I think his name is Sid. You have a little bit of some Sid Ice Age going on in your face. So you got a little bit of some spread out eyes. But that's really easy to fix, so that's good. So let's bring our eyes in a bit. So let's come in here. I'll just very quickly mask these off and just slide them in a little bit. Let's move our eyeballs as well. And I'm not sure if you're going for stylization here or not, if you're trying to get as close to this or a little bit more realistic. You said you were using a couple other references as well. So one thing that is very important that we do as 3D artists is we rotate around our character as much as possible, and that helps us to look at things from a lot of different angles. And in particular, in our eyes, the corners of your eyes, the internal corners of your eyes are pushed in super far. And I can tell that just by looking at it from the front. But if I were to kind of solo this and just look at this from the side, this is, not what we would like to see. So from the side view, I've talked about eyelid order before, but if you were to draw a plane out in front of your face and kind of start sliding this back, the first thing you want this lid to hit on your eyelids is your top eyelid, then your bottom eyelid, then your inner corner, and then your outer corner. So you do have a little bit of that going on, but I think to make this feel a lot more natural and not so sunken in, I think we need to pull back on that back corner quite a bit and try to either pull out on this front corner or push in around the rest of our eyelids quite a bit as well. And it might just be a combination of that. I would recommend that you play with this for a while, but I think that's already starting to feel a bit better. So I would do some of that. Just try to tweak this very quickly with my move brush. And then for the shape of your eyelids, kind of from the front view, you want to get a little bit of that kind of counter shape in there. So on the upper lid, a little bit higher on that inner corner, lower lid, lower on the outer corner. So we got like this kind of counter curve going on. So those few things, I don't really have enough. We can sit here and play with this for a while, but I don't want to spend the next hour on your eyes. But take a look at that. I would also, just to make your eyes not feel so droopy, play with the angle of your corners. Still feels very pressed into me along this, along that corner. I think I messed up your geometry in the back. That's fine. So maybe something you can do, I don't know, just very quickly I'll try doing a very rough rotate out to try getting that to come out of that deep crevasse that we have going on there. So this is going to take some effort on your part for sure. I think it'll be worth it. I think your eyes will be feeling much better by the time you get some of that stuff in there. Similarly, kind of to the maybe not same problem, but caused for the same reason. If we're looking at your face, as we come in towards the nose, your face feels very pinched, like it's kind of like coming out into a wedge. So if I look at it from the very extreme view down here, I can see that is, for certain the case of what's causing that to feel so awkward. So if we look at something like this jaw, the way this is planed out, you can clearly see that we come down the jawline, and then there's, more of a, instead of coming down into a triangular shape, it comes down and kind of rounds off or squares off. So that's more of what we want to get in there. Let's do that next here. And I just give some more, kind of widen that out. I think what I'm going to do is actually widen your jaw quite a bit here. And let's push your other stuff around here. Let's turn on perspective And I'm going to kind of fix some of this here a little bit too. Another thing that I think is just going to help you in general here, I think your eyes are just way too far forward on your face, kind of making your face look a bit flat. So starting to get some more depth around there, and then thinking about the orbital area around the eye socket. So the problem is that we have all these secondary and additional forms on top of a bad primary shape. So that makes it very hard to manipulate. So if I were to receive this and I was supposed to fix a lot of this for a job, I would probably just Dynamesh this and take this all the way back to some of the primary shapes and then start fixing that and then get back up. So maybe that's something we can do here. I don't really want to Dynamesh your face and break everything that you have here though, so let's just try to work with what we got really quick and try to get away from this very tight wedge that we have currently. And that is, it almost feels like your face was like squashed in like this. So I don't know if that's something that you did, but it feels like it's kind of everywhere, like it's in your nose as well. So maybe pulling that out, getting some more volume. I'm not really even using this as a guide at this stage. I think just kind of looking at general proportions here and what we do want to see in the face will help you out quite a bit. It's got so much pulling in towards that middle there. It's really, from that 3/4 view, feeling super tight. Let me try getting a little bit more, just kind of going back, planing stuff out with my pinch brush so I can really get back to that shape in the face that we want to see. And then in terms of just general shapes in your nose and lips, I would maybe take a step back on these and try again. Specifically in the lips and nose, I think we already said enough about the eyes. There's a lot that we can improve here though. Let's just kind of work on our lip and chin at the same time. These shapes are all interconnected here, and as well as kind of flowing up through the jaw here. And the shape of our neck as well is feeling way too fat and short. Let's see. So typically what I like to do is sharpen up my jaw really tight, and then I'll come back through with a smooth brush or trim later on and start to fill some of that back in. So look at those few things. There's a lot more here that we need to do in the face. I don't think we have another one coming down the pipeline though, so maybe we can spend some more time on this, which I don't mind doing. Let's make sure we don't have any additional questions. Just put a third eye between the Sid eye, that's right. Gonna have to test that donation alert again. Okay, so I think I fixed it. It was being weird, so I thought it was set up. I like checked it, and I adjusted some of the settings, but I think it was good. I don't know. I tested it and it worked. But when you did it, it was weird. I don't know if it was because you chose like a custom, I don't know, a custom GIF or whatever. I honestly don't know. I don't get donations enough to be able to test it frequently. a few more things. Let's just kind of play with this here. We got some time. Let me just go ahead and check the email, make sure we are good. We are. Again, if you want to get in for a critique today, my time is your time, so shoot me an email, follygon@gmail.com, and we'll take a look at what you got. All right, so I am going to take a large step backwards here so that we can progress forward. All right, let's see, go away. So I'm doing a very quick remesh on this, Dynamesh and remesh, just to get rid of a lot of the stretching and bad topology that we had in here, so that we can hopefully get something a little bit easier to work on. So from here, let's do a quick little projection. Our favorite thing to do. Probably good enough. All right, so let's really take a step back so that we can look at some of the larger forms here that weren't feeling quite as good. So let me very quickly import your old head, just so we have a reference point so we can look back on it. So feeling very square, right? Very kind of blocked off. I think you're a lot better from the profile, but from the front, we start to really kind of fall apart here in a lot of areas, especially feeling very squashed and tight towards the front of the face. So I've started to round that out a bit, and now I'm gonna continue making some of these changes. So I'm going to erase your lips so that we can really fix the volume that you have here in the face. A lot of this is really just kind of not super great at the initial level, and that makes it very hard to kind of retain your lips, but also go back and fix a lot of this stuff. So let's do that. Let's kind of make sure we have the appropriate amount of volume in here. Let's make sure that proportionally our nose is in the correct place. Let's slide that down a little bit. Your eyes are, I think, good enough. Your eyelids, though, are pretty rough, so you might want to, if you've seen the process for me adding in separate pieces of geometry, that might be something that you want to experiment with. If you have not seen that, I would be happy to share a link with you. I'll just very quickly kind of plus up our lids, make sure that our corners are fitting together nicely. The reason why I like using separate geometry a lot around this area is because it's just easier to control, and it allows me to really get in here and focus on stuff like some internal silhouette lines. For example, coming down here from the eyelid, we want to come down and wrap around the mouth and come out the chin on the bottom. Let's see. So just kind of taking that a step back. I'm not sure if the volume, like where that internal eye corner is, might still be a little too deep. I think I'm just gonna leave it for now, and let's look at the rest of the shapes here in the head to make sure that we are headed in the right direction. All right, so let me clean out some of this a bit more, make sure. Let's see. Again, taking a look at that jawline coming down. I know I destroyed your neck, but you're your neck was a little stubby and felt like we were getting a little bit too wide too early, what I like to do is pull out my neck and just kind of work on the silhouette here for a moment. And then what I'll do is add a separate piece of geometry for the torso, and then merge that together later, and then work on blending that with, just Dynamesh or something like that. So what I typically do is use an IMM primitive brush and insert a sphere. Just right at the base of the neck. And start widening out that shape. And I find that to be pretty helpful so that we have separate geometry and we can kind of work on our head and neck separately, and then we can work on our body separately without mixing everything else together. And we can, continue to sit here and shape that up. I think we'll continue to work on our face though, because that's, I think, more what you would prefer to see. Horsitar, beautiful, beautiful username. Thank you and welcome to the stream. How you doing? All right, a little bit more depth around our lids would be awesome, so that we make sure that we have enough room for our eyeball, so it doesn't have any geometry kind of poking through. Kind of like what we got right now. It's a little tough to deal with this. Let's see. Let's just carve in with our clay tubes. Just a little bit. And we'll just carve right on out here. Let's use our move brush. Start getting these corners a lot closer, as we would expect in real life. Alright, so some more stuff needs to happen with the thickness of our lids around that area, but let's move on to the rest of our head. Don't want to get too focused on our eyes. Alright, let's see. Let me just go ahead and plane this back out so that I can fix the directionality there. Originally, I think that kind of pinched in area, like right through here, feels a bit awkward, so I'm just taking the time to plane that back out. Make sure that our volumes are reading well. Maybe start to get a little bit more blend coming down from the nose, kind of where that nasolabial fold would be. Nose still feels like very, very thin, so I'd probably widen that out quite a bit. Maybe work on the separation here. On your old head, one thing that you really want to do is when you're working on noses, make sure that for where that connects to the plane around here, first of all, the plane around here will affect the shape of your lips quite a bit, because it's kind of like running down all the way through here, kind of controlling this entire shape. So make sure that that is correct before you start sculpting the nose on top of that. And then additionally, as you come down from the nose into the upper lip, make sure that you're working on this transition right here. So you want your nostrils to be pretty flat and like a part of this transition of the nose. I often see people just like push in the geometry like this, and then they leave like this kind of large volume of connection right here, and that's just not how noses work. So make sure that this is something that you pay attention to as well. And then again, this whole area is going to affect as you come down into the barrel of the mouth, which you can, start blocking out however you want. I'm just gonna put in some really basic volume here, and carry some of this volume up. Just trying to get like a nice flow through the face here. So I'm really taking my time to make sure that these basic shapes are reading well before we step forward and go into some of those secondary forms. Let's see, I'm gonna raise up where that cheekbone is kind of hitting. the zygomatic flowing back into the ear. And I think a lot of the volumes are starting to feel quite a bit better here in the face. Let's see. Got kind of some awkward dip in back here on the skull, so I would say try to get this a little bit more accurate to what we would see in a normal skull. It's feeling a bit better. I think it's more so just kind of where it's connecting on the ear. And then our ears kind of feel like they're, whoops, wrong one. Our ears kind of feel like they're protruding out. The ear is connected. I think it's more of our ear and our jawline is like coming out super far. So pay attention to that. Make sure that, you know, these ears are kind of, your ear sits right on top, right behind your jaw. So feel with your fingers the top corner of your jaw. Your ear sits right behind that. Look at a skull. There's a little hole right behind where the jaw connects. Your ear canal, or your auditory meatus. Find that. That's where your ear hole goes. And just make sure that that ear feels like it's kind of flush up against that point. Okay? So I think that's starting to feel quite a bit better. So again, the objective here was to go back a stage and really focus on some of the more important stuff in the primary form to make sure that that is correct. It's like baking a cake. If you mess up stage 1, step 1, step 2 and 3, you know, no matter how much icing you put on a cake, if the cake is done wrong, it's not going to taste good. So we want to make sure that those initial steps are feeling good. I think this is slowly but surely getting there. So, let's see. Let's make sure we don't have any questions here before I continue on. How would you make the inside of a mouth? I've shown that many times here on stream, and I do not mind showing it again. But let's make sure that the volume around our mouth is good first. Just making sure that bridge of the nose is also not super narrow, because remember, this feels like super tight, super narrow. So again, here's where we were before, and this is where we are now. So we're really starting to fill in a lot of this volume around that jaw and chin line. Start to get away from that super short, super tight and pinched area. That's what we want to see. If anything, my jaw is like a little bit too long, but it's not like it's a big deal. We can always shorten that later. Let me see here. Come on down. Make sure. Might plane that out a little bit more, but we can go ahead and move on to the mouth since we were asked specifically about that. Alright. So we got that, you know, major kind of triangular shape coming out here for that plane. Around here it feels like we're dipping in even a little bit more than we should. But for the mouth, what I like to do, I'm sure many of you have seen this before here on my streams or on my YouTube channel, but we can split the mouth. I'll use either a slice brush or a mask or whatever. Doesn't really matter what you use as long as you get a nice clean split through there. So I'll just polygroup that and split this into 2 separate halves. And then from there, we'll just close holes with the Dynamesh, and I'll start blocking out the major area. Oops, Dynamesh that as well. Major area for where my lips will live. So make sure you're looking at the profile. planing that out, getting that to feel a little bit better. We want pretty much a straight line coming down through here. If anything, a little like slight convexity. Or concavity, I should say, not convexity. Not too much though, because we start getting into duck lip territory. I'll just carve in a little bit, fill out our mouth bag. And then when you start working on the lower lip, start carving in underneath. So remember that the lower lip, all the parts in your face kind of work together. So from the lower lip, a lot of these shapes start to work with the chin as well. Same with the upper lip, kind of working and flowing up into your cheek, to your nose. All this stuff kind of works together. So that's why it's so important to have that underlying feature be good before we move forward. So let's kind of continue to shape up our, what will become our lips here. Is now just kind of a tube. And kind of continue shaping this up. So before, if we look at these lips here, we smooth out here. Looks like you do have a mouth bag that you carved in there, which is nice. The shape of our lip though here, it feels very kind of like standalone, standalone-y. So remember that all these shapes kind of interact with each other. So we're coming down here from that lower lip into the shape of our chin. And then there are muscles here that kind of blend into the sides of the lip there. So it's often a little bit more of a hit on the lower portion of that, more so than the corners. You probably want to pull back on the corners a bit here and start blending these. And spend some decent amount of time on your lips. They are a very expressive part of the face. Lips and eyes, mouth and eyes, two most expressive parts. And probably pull back on the corners here as well. And just get some more volume in here. Again, pull back on those corners. And slowly but surely, we are starting to get some lips. Jamie Maria, welcome to the stream and thank you for the follow. I'm very quickly going to block out a little bit of where the nasolabial fold would take place. And probably work on some of the volume up through here as well. I think for now though, we'll just kind of leave that. And we'll kind of handle that later. So we're starting to get those lips in there. But again, take your time with this stuff. The more you rush, the more mistakes you're gonna make. Better to measure twice and cut once than the other way around. I like how you take partial ownership of the model in the critique, saying our instead of your. I think that's more of just a habit than anything. What's going on, Slime? Thank you for the follow. R13, what's going on? Welcome to the stream. So, for those that are just joining us here, we're doing some live critiques on stream today. This one was sent in by Francisco, and we are taking a look specifically at the jaw and kind of why this is feeling so tight and tapered through here. But there are also quite a few other things that we can take a look at to, I think, kind of plus this up and push it to the next level. So slowly we've been kind of blocking this stuff back out and getting back to a little bit of a better place. If you do want to get your stuff critiqued live on stream today, all you have to do is shoot me an email, follygon@gmail.com. And you will be in the queue for next up. So let's see. Let's get back to our lips. What do we want to do with our lips? At this point, we could, you know, merge these back together. Really, the only reason that we split the mouth, and the only reason I'm keeping the lips parted in such an awkward way, is so that when we merge them back together, the geometry in the middle of the lip doesn't get sewn together, essentially. So the corners of the mouth will remain connected here, but the rest we want to be open. Again, a little bit more volume connected up through the sides there, and then I say we go ahead and Dynamesh connect that back up. And then we can work on the length of that jaw and all that other good stuff. So, quick Dynamesh. Well, boom. A little bit too low resolution. So let me increase that. Try again. Whoops. So I think the lesson here, I'm kind of taking this further because we don't have anything else in the queue right now for the next critique. But the lesson here is, the main lesson is, don't rush ahead super quick. Take your time. Let quick save do its thing. Take your time and think it'll be worth it to really focus on those big, large shapes, those big primary forms in the beginning. Make sure that those are correct before you move forward with eyes, lips, or nose, or anything else. Typically what I do is I'll just have a sphere that I will kind of just block out that main shape of the head, and it'll almost feel like mannequin-esque in nature. It's very simple, just kind of like the planes of the head, not worrying about any of these additional features. I recommend that, and then once you get to a good place in that stage, then you can kind of start moving forward from there. So what we want to do at this stage is make sure that our lips are good, kind of connected up there, or what will become our lips, or right now more just kind of tubes placed on our surface. The main reason we did this though was to very quickly kind of create a mouth bag. And then from there we can start, you know, blocking this out a little bit more if we want, or we can remesh to make this a little bit easier to work with. Really, it's up to you. I prefer to remesh and get a little bit easier topology to work with. But maybe we can spend a little bit more time here in Dynamesh just kind of playing around in the mud, which I don't mind too much. Kind of playing some of this out a bit better. Make sure that we get some more of the hits of our lips. We do still have polygroups, which is another kind of added benefit here of splitting this stuff off. And I think the next thing I'll do is start focusing on what are called the pillows of the lips, just like the major forms of the lips. So on the lower lip, you have two kind of major shapes that form those. And on the top lip, you have three. So let's add a subdiv in here very quickly. Right through, oops, wrong way. Right through about here. So we have this main volume. And then much like at the bottom of the bottom lip, we have two volumes here. So it should be one on the left, another on the right, and then three in the middle. And I've over-exaggerated that a bit. That's okay. We can very easily kind of smooth out and clean up between those and start planing out our lips a little bit more. I think what I'm going to do here is mask off this internal portion so that I can adjust the thickness of our lips. And I'll do that by masking that off, cleaning up the mask there, move my light so that I can see a bit better. It's not really working. Let's try it down a little bit more and start shifting that down. Obviously, I think the crease here is way too strong. So let's kind of soften that up, and then what we'll do, get rid of our nightmare lighting. Let's kind of plane this transition out a bit more. I see this shape get, like the Cupid bow shape of the lips get over-exaggerated quite often. Pay attention to your reference, pay attention to your own lips, you know. Don't go too crazy there. Especially here with the kind of like part, kind of like dip in the middle of the lips there, caused by that shape. The lips, I see that over-exaggerated quite often as well. And normally it's just not as deep as people think. Often what happens is people, they know a shape is there, so they tend to exaggerate it a little bit more, and it ends up feeling more like a symbol or caricature of what the actual shape looks like. So just make sure that you're really looking at your forms and really studying them, and paying attention to that. I often say, or I've often heard people say, sculpt what you know and then what you see. I think that's some pretty good advice in general. So you know it's there, so you can maybe start blocking it in, but really look at it, really pay attention to what you're seeing. We're starting to get that a little bit closer. I would probably remesh this and close up the lips so that we can make sure that the form is, reading okay. Right now these are like still super blocky. It's just hard to manipulate them at this level. So let's very quickly do that, and we'll remesh this and get this to a better place, and we can go back through our head and do another proportional check. Let's do like 3K. Lurking at work. Well, that's all right. I don't mind. If I had it, I would send a Z-tool of my recent project. Maybe next week. Not a problem, man. Got all the time in the world. Be here next Friday, same time, same place. Alright, so what I've done is just a quick remesh. I have a lower poly count now, which means that it's easier for me to manipulate this at the most basic level, which we will absolutely want to do so we can correct some of the proportions and larger forms in our face. So as you kind of move up here, move up the chain, you will still obviously make, it's not step 1, step 2, step 3. It's step 1, step 2, and step 1, and then step 3 and step 2 and step 1. So as you successfully go from primary to secondary to tertiary, for whatever you're sculpting, whatever shape you're trying to create, you want to still look back and make sure that everything that you're creating from the base level is still reading well. So it's not just like, oh, time to move on to the nose now. Okay, here we go, nose time. As you work on the nose, it's going to affect all these shapes around your lips and everything else. All works together. Hopefully that makes sense. So sure, I've gotten my lips in here now, but I mean, not really. I've kind of just like blocked out where they're supposed to go. And now I need to work on actually making them look a bit more like lips. Which is an important part of the lip creation process, if you don't know. Make them look, step 7, make them look like lips. That's right. Lower lip pretty much always sits a little bit more inset from the profile than the upper. I think my lower lip needs just like a bit more volume here. I don't really like using the inflate brush, but maybe it's like a good place to use it. The inflate brush is just really hard for me to control. I think it's just hard to control in general. I recommend typically just using the move brush, maybe with like back face masking or something on. For now, I think that's fine though. Gets the job done. Oh god. Alright, I'm just gonna slide those down a little bit and do a quick additional proportional check on our face. Let's see here. Let's adjust some things here very quickly. Can square out our head a bit more if we want to get a bit stronger face. Pull up that jaw corner a bit. I think we're maybe just lacking some volume for our skull. We've spent quite a while on this already, but let me make sure we don't have anything else in our inbox. Ah, I can become the new esports king and earn $5. What is this? Thank you. Thank you, Spam. Alright. So we'll continue on this for a little bit longer. I'll give some more time for people to get in for the critique. Again, the whole reason we're doing this today is for you guys. So, if you want to get in, do so now. And if you get in too late, it's okay, we got next week. Like I said. So we'll spend a little bit more time here. Give a little bit of extra time for somebody else to jump in. But if not, that will be it for today. I just want to say you're awesome and thanks for doing this. Well, no problem, man. I am happy to help in any way that I can. My objective, so with critiques, a lot of the time my objective is not to do a super good sculpt over and, you know, create something amazing because, you know, sculpting takes a long time. So a lot of the time I just break people's stuff and try to talk about, you know, what's important while showing some examples of that, but it's really hard to give a short and concise critique on something like this, so I'm glad that we're able to spend maybe a little bit more time on something like this to maybe show how to take something a bit further. But thank you, man. That's very, very kind of you. My geometry is not being incredibly supportive down here. Let's see. It's Harris, the Pepper Witch sculpt. Was Pepper the one with the kind of swirly hat that I remember? I'm not sure if that's correct. You have updated the head and blocked the body. If you have free space, I can send it now. Sure, we can take a look. I'm not sure if that's the one that I'm thinking of or not. Yes, that is the one that I'm thinking of. Absolutely, feel free to shoot it over. Francisco says, thanks for giving us some feedback. No problem, man. No problem at all. So let's make sure we look at this from the 3/4 view, so we're not getting like super thin in the face, because then it starts to feel a bit awkward. So I'm very quickly just going to pull a line. Make sure I'm getting enough volume through there. And the eyelids absolutely need some more love. The eyes just need more love in general, but hopefully for how far we have gotten, this has been helpful here. Alright, maybe like one more like tighten up around here. Let's see. Nothing is ever finished, right? Only abandoned. And we will abandon this soon enough. Mouth feels like a little bit small. I don't know. I can play with that for quite a while. I'd also say the other thing I really want to do with the lips that's super important is that we really work on getting the, I don't know what it's called, the like tight area around the corner of the lips, and make sure that we like kind of wrap the volume around there a bit to make that feel more fleshy. A really good way to do this actually is to mask off your bottom lip, all this area, and pull back on that corner really hard, like harder than you probably think is necessary. And then from there, work on the upper lip and how that kind of blends and wraps down and around there. And that is typically how I start to get that shape. And probably, I think we just need to, you know, work on a lot of this around here, but it's starting to work. Get there. It's a tough shape to make. And we're getting like a little messy here in our surface, so we'd want to go back through and clean all that up, but I think that that is a good place for us to stop and chill. Other than, you know, he doesn't have a body, so. Kind of floating necks and heads are always awkward to me. But let's see. Cool. Cool. I guess I can turn off the sphere since we never did anything with that. So again, there is the where we are now, the after and the before. So a lot of work to just get rid of the sharpening, really sharp transitions along the face. Make sure that we're not getting this super tight kind of rounded area for the front of the face there. It feels very squashed, very tight. The inner corners of the eyes are dipped in super hard, so we'd want to definitely spend a bit more time on that. And overall, just kind of the overall taper here and proportions feel a bit awkward and off. So hopefully that was helpful, like I said. And yeah, we'll continue on here with I think we have one more that we can look at. Bill says, thanks for the critique last week. No problem, Bill. Happy to help. Fleezix says, hi, this looks so cool. Well, thank you, Fleez. Looks so much better. Can't wait to watch the whole thing. Absolutely. Again, this model was sent to us by Francisco. Hopefully you can push a little bit further on this, Francisco. Good luck to you, my man. Is it possible to maybe get an image with the updated head on the front and left side? Here you go. Take a screenshot. Wait, very quickly. We'll do non-perspective from the front, no perspective from the profile, and I will do a 3/4 with perspective on. Screenshot away. Do it now. Screenshot now or forever hold your peace. Alright, it's gone forever. It's too late, you're too slow. Alright, let's take a look at a robotic leg.